every year there are a few films that deserve larger audiences than they get. Good films, or even great ones, that most people never get a chance to see. And we call those movies winners that were losers. This week at the movies, we'll take a look at 6 of them.
Our choices include Divine Madness with Bette Midler, Prince of the City starring Treat Williams, and Tattoo with Bruce Dern as a mad tattoo artist.
Join us for the special program, Winners That Were Losers, this week at the movies, the movie review program.
Movies that we liked, but they lost out at the box office this week at the movies.
Pamela, you are a thirsty plant.
Feeny can water you.
I don't want to be watered on by Feeny.
Look at each other. Say it again. We pledge eternal love.
We pledge eternal love.
Oh my God. What's happening to us?
I'll tell you what's happening to us. We've just seen 3 of the worst movies of the year. Some according to me and some according to Roger. And this is the special edition of At the Movies dedicated to lousy movies, the stinkers of 1982. So bad, we can't let them go without just one more kick. Joining me in the balcony, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And this is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. One thing we probably ought to make clear about this show right at the start is that it's not going to be devoted to run-of-the-mill stinkers of the week with low budgets.
Good.
Instead, we're going to talk about the kinds of movies the film studios like to refer to as major motion pictures, movies that were supposed to be good, but were not. Gene, your move.
Okay, my first choice for one of the worst movies of the year is Inchon, and I'm in good company. Esquire magazine, I noticed recently, picked it as the worst movie of the year, one of the great dubious achievements of the year. Inchon, the Korean War battle, was a major turning point for Allied forces. Inchon, the movie, is a disastrous waste of an enormous amount of money. By some reports, as much as $30 million spent all on one of those typical big star epics where every few minutes one familiar face after another pops up in the most unlikely spot. For example, here's a way to really kill the reality of a Korean War movie in a flash. Watch who pops up in the middle of this attack scene on a bridge.
You're gonna have to get out as soon as we get to the other side of the bridge. What's he saying?
Spread up the breeze.
Yes, that's right, Jacqueline Bisset in a sundress, a bombshell amid the bombshells. And there are more stars, Ben Gazzara, Richard Roundtree, Laurence Olivier as General Douglas MacArthur. I sort of enjoyed Olivier in the movie, but that was it. The rest was just one close-up of a building or a tank or a bridge, and then no surprise, whammo, it blows up real good. To think of the good movies that could have been made with all the money spent on Inchon, it almost makes this more than just a bad movie. It's sort of shameful.
You know, I guess I should have known there was something wrong with this movie. They when they started offering you an around-the-world cruise if you just go to see it.
That's right. They had a lottery. I don't know if anybody ever got that, but I'm telling you, even that, they're shortchanged.
And Olivier, who was a great actor, seemed to think he was in another movie. At one point, one of his attacks doesn't work out right, and he turns his back to the action and says, "Take a letter." And he starts dictating his resignation to Harry Truman, and it's almost like a Shakespearean speech. He seemed to be totally in a different world than the world of the Korean War.
I thought he was okay, but this, it's just a waste. There was nothing special about this film.
You're right. There was one thing special about it. Wasted $30 million on a movie that hardly anybody saw. One of the worst movies I saw last year was called If You Could See What I Hear, and this was a movie that was all the worse because it was supposed to be inspirational and uplifting. The movie was allegedly based on the true story of Tom Sullivan, a blind man who specializes in doing anything that sighted people can do. Well, that's great, except that Sullivan comes across in this movie like a refugee from Animal House. His idea of overcoming his handicap is to party all night. Now, here's a typically depressing scene from the movie.
Right, that's good. Oh, God, what are you doing? Ah! Don't push me. Look out, G-Man! Where? Oh, my God, they took my license away last year. All right, hang on, guys. We're gonna run for it. When do I get to walk?
Go to hell.
Well, your friend is blind?
More or less. Yeah.
Then why the hell is he driving?
Because he's the only one who's sober.
Isn't that inspirational? A blind man overcomes his handicap and somehow finds the inner strength to become a drunk driver. In another scene, he skydives and almost kills himself and pulls down a power line, and then he has a great time in a bar where he grabs women and pretends, oh, he didn't know they were there. He's also a great wit. At one point, he's offered some drugs, and he says, no, he's too busy drinking himself to death. If this movie really is based on a true story, and if Tom Sullivan's friends really do encourage him in his brainless exercises in self-destruction, then this movie would depress me even more than it already does.
You know, you really have to go far to make a movie about a handicapped person that has you not caring about that person, or, in this case, hating that person and wanting to get away from them. I found the film particularly offensive. It seemed to be saying that a person with a handicap can get away with anything. And, of course, even handicapped people resent that.
My test was pretty simple. I thought that the guy in this movie, who I suppose is not exactly like the real Tom Sullivan, at least I hope not, was so obnoxious that I would do almost anything not to be in the same room with him.
Exactly.
So that's not very
Or
inspirational.
the same movie theater with him in particular.
Right.
Okay, next at the movies, one of the biggest flops of the year, featuring the film debut of a great artist.
RCA Video Disc. First, we opened your eyes to great entertainment. Now, we're going to open your ears to stereo sound. Introducing RCA's Stereo Video Disc Player, letting you enjoy great stereo entertainment and movies on your TV tonight. Basic players start at $2.99, stereo higher. RCA's Stereo Video Disc. It'll open your eyes and your ears.
We'll open your eyes, RCA.
Pert shampoo. It'll help bring back the bounce.
There's a sassy bounce,
a classy bounce,
a happy bounce,
and a snappy bounce.
Pert shampoo, it'll bring back the bounce.
Pert shampoo. Pearly green, smells terrific, with a whisper of conditioning. Pert will help bring back the bounce.
There's a party bounce,
a smarty bounce,
a shorty bounce,
and a sporty bounce.
Pert shampoo, it'll bring back the bounce.
What happens to garbage after it sits around a while? It starts to smell, and bacteria grow. Well, here's how to handle that problem. Introducing new Glad deodorant large kitchen garbage bags. They've been working right here, and even after 24 hours, they're still working. These bags contain a tough bacteria fighter to resist the growth of odor-causing germs on the bag, and a powerful deodorant to keep the kitchen smelling fresh and clean. New Glad deodorant large kitchen garbage bags. It's what you don't smell that counts.
Look at me. Do you like what you see? Good, because it's not me. It's a recording of me on Memorex videotape. This remarkable tape has been recorded and re-recorded 100 times, but I bet you still couldn't tell if it was Memorex or me, which really isn't me. It's Memorex. Memorex videotape. Even after 100 recordings, you'll wonder, is it live or is it Memorex?
And now it is my pleasure to present, if not the worst movie of the year, at least this, the worst movie dialogue of the year. And it comes in the film called Yes, Giorgio, with opera star Luciano Pavarotti making his film debut and maybe his film farewell, playing an Italian tenor on tour in America who falls for a pretty Boston doctor, Catherine Harold. In this memorable scene, Pavarotti, playing a singer known as Giorgio Fini, tries to convince Catherine Harold to accompany him to San Francisco. The great line of dialogue comes at the end of the scene.
Last night I could not sleep until I know what to do about Pamela. Then all at once, I know what I must do.
A ticket to San Francisco?
Si. Come, carissima. The plane leaves in 45 minutes.
Oh, no, thank you. It's a very generous offer. In fact, the nicest I've had all day. But in case you've forgotten, you're a married man with 2 children.
And I love my wife and my family, and we have a wonderful life together, but my private life is my own.
Do me a favor, Giorgio. Go to the airport, get on that plane, and fly out of my life forever.
Do you think I do this for my own pleasure? Believe me, I do this for your own good.
Believe me, it's for a fling, no?
These two, but more.
Please just leave me out of your fantasies.
This is no fantasy. This ticket is real. I am real. Pamela, you are a thirsty plant. Fini can water you.
I don't want to be watered on by Fini.
Who can blame her? Who would want to be watered on by Fini? Wouldn't you have loved to have been on the set when they were shooting that scene and maybe you would have said, you know, try and write this one again?
I wonder if anybody on the set realized that it was going to get all these bad laughs, and then...
I hope that they thought it was funny, because if they didn't, they're really dumb. I also had some more questions when I watched this film. Who wants to see the great Pavarotti sit on a pie, or get into a food fight, or be called tons of fun by a child? This actually happened in this picture. I have the answer, though. Apparently, the people who put up the money for this film wanted to see all that, and maybe that's because they thought that they would have to make Pavarotti cute to make him sell to Middle America. Well, his music sells better than Yes, Giorgio did. This film is an insult to opera, to Pavarotti, and to us.
Every time he sings, it's like Gene Krupa doing his big drum solo or a basketball player sinking the big shot at the end of the game, you know. I will sing this aria just for you. It's like it's a stunt or something.
I know. You know,
and then when he sings, it's beautiful, but it's in a totally different movie.
Yeah, just 2 pictures. And I think interviews with him and just listening to him sing the same music would have made a much better film.
Or they could have made a comedy and really made fun of opera, you know. The one thing that this picture needed was one of the Marx Brothers, maybe, to come on stage and save Pavarotti from himself. Moving right along, a few years ago we started to get all those cut-rate horror films that I like to call the dead teenager movies. Now, you know what they are. They're the exploitation films that are set at summer camp or on prom night with a mad slasher stalking innocent teenagers. They were pretty transcendently awful, but now there's an even worse trend in movies, which I call the horny teenager movie. Movies where oversexed, slow learners with disciplinary problems creep through the locker room trying to get a peek at the girls' gym class. And the worst one of all was an enormous box office hit named Porky's. Here's the basic scene from all of these movies.
It's Blubber McNeil. I can't see a thing, damn it. Would you be quiet? They're starting to leave. Hey, beat it, midget. But I'm missing it, man. Would you shut up and you stay on your side? Damn it, will you move it, you lard?
Sounds like a guy's voice. Yeah, who is it? Who's back there?
Don't be alarmed, girls. This is just your health department.
You better get yourself out of here, otherwise you're gonna get
in big trouble.
In spite of the juvenile snickers of some, this is a serious matter. That seducer and spoiler must be stopped. He's extremely dangerous. And, Mr. Carter, I'm certain that everyone in this room knows who that is. He's a contemptible little pervert who's...
A spellbreaker.
Well, I'm sorry. But I've got him now, and I'm not going to let him slip through my fingers.
And that's another basic scene in these movies, the teacher as Cretin. Now, there's nothing wrong with teenage movies about love and lust and summer romance. There's an old tradition in these movies going all the way back to the beach party films and all the way forward to Brooke Shields and Blue Lagoon. But movies like Porky's are so dirty-minded, they aren't any fun. They don't see women as friends and lovers, but as mindless targets for idiotic practical jokes. And you know, one of the strangest things about Porky's was that there wasn't a single friendship between a male and a female in this whole movie. The movie had a really weirdly frightened and hostile attitude toward women.
Yeah, that's the way I did it in my review. I thought the same way. I thought this is basically a hate women picture, and I know there are lots of people, since this was an enormous hit, it was grossed over $100 million, who are thinking, come on, it was just innocent fun and just laughs. I honestly didn't laugh. I thought it was very, very cruel. Women as oversexed butts of jokes, and guys as ogling them all the time, plus there was a lot of racism, and racism used to have you laugh at the subject of the racism. This was a mean little picture, and I am stunned by its success.
Do you think that maybe it just kind of snowballed, that there were 2 or 3 scenes in it that were kind of sexy and people talked to each other and they went to see it? And
I think there was that. I think they had a very sophisticated ad campaign that brought a lot of people
really
in.
a sick picture.
I think so. Next at the movies, a miserable sequel, or was this one a prequel? Now, it's tough to pick the worst sequel of the year. There were so many, but Amityville 2, The Possession, may be it, giving us just what we didn't want, further adventures of that haunted house. Actually, Amityville 2 is a prequel, a movie that takes place in time before the beginning of the original movie, focusing on how the house came to be haunted in the first place. We get to see a young man turn a shotgun on his parents and a little brother. We'll spare you that scene. But how about this piece of nauseating material? The scene early in the picture when the local priest comes around to bless the house.
My bedroom, Father. Oh, my bed, too.
Now, I picked that throwing up scene not to gross anybody out, but to make a point of how offensive this movie really is. Someone connected with this film decided that that scene needed the throwing up, that it wasn't horrible enough without the barfing, and that person or persons was dead wrong. The mood was already set. You didn't need the extra shot. The music told you what was going on, but my suspicion is that that scene was included because they knew they didn't have a good script here in this picture, and they needed to spice it up with some shocking scenes, and it's for that extra bit of sickening material, and there's lots of it in this picture. That's the reason that Amityville 2, The Possession, makes my list as one of the worst films of the year.
And you know, one of the films I'm looking forward to seeing least in 1983 is a movie that's going to be called Amityville 3D, in which they're probably going to throw up on the audience.
It'll probably be called Amityville 3, The Sublease or something.
When I was a kid down in downstate Illinois, we used to go to the carnival in the summertime, and they had a tent called the Geek Show.
Exactly.
Where they had a guy who came around and he would bite the heads off of live chickens, and you paid 50 cents to see that, right? And you only wanted to see it once. Well, I think I learned my lesson in the Geek Show, and I don't have to see movies like Amityville 2. They are made by people with absolutely no shame.
They are only interested in getting some kind of rise out of the audience and, you know, just throwing something special at them, so we get the shotgun stuff on the little kids. At that point, I really wanted to leave. I wanted to ask the people who were in the theater, why didn't more of them get up and split? I can't understand it.
Well, now we come to what I consider the smarmiest movie of the year, a real piece of tear-jerking dreck named 6 Weeks. This is a movie starring Mary Tyler Moore as a millionaire mother of a little girl who's dying of leukemia, and Dudley Moore is the congressional candidate who enters their lives falls in love with the little girl and then falls in love with her mother. It's also bittersweet. It's sickening because this is a serious subject and it really shouldn't be handled in this way. See, for example, if you can sit through this scene without squirming. The dying little girl stages a mock wedding ceremony for her mother and the man that she hopes will keep her mother company after she dies.
Okay. Raise your glasses.
Good idea. Sounds right.
And repeat after me. We pledge eternal love.
We pledge eternal love.
Look at each other. Say it again. We pledge eternal love.
We pledge eternal love.
And agree to be married.
And agree to be married.
For now.
For now.
Because there is no always.
Because there is no always.
And we will remember this pledge.
And we'll remember this pledge.
Until we no longer remember.
Until we never
remember.
I now pronounce us man, child, and wife. You may now kiss the child.
I really resent scenes like that try to exploit my emotions by, instead of creating characters that I feel sorry for and that I feel bad about, giving me all of these prefabricated elements. It's just really cheap. And there's one slight technicality in that mock marriage there, and that's that Dudley Moore is already married. He has a wife and son at home, and the little girl knows it. But the movie never really deals with that question, with a lot of other questions, like who the little girl's father was, or why the little girl isn't getting any medical treatment at all, or why Mary Tyler Moore and Dudley Moore are allowed to get stuck in some of the most unlikely, unbelievable, unsayable dialogue I've ever heard. And at the end of this movie, this is unforgivable, the little girl has one last wish. And she doesn't stop halfway. She wants to dance the lead in the Nutcracker Suite at Lincoln Center. And of course, they arrange it, and she gets her wish, and then she dies. This kind of shameless exploitation of a serious subject is enough to make you want to throw pies at the screen.
Guess what?
Guess what?
You remember, don't you?
Yes, you like this movie. Yes.
That's right.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I'll say a few things in its defense. I thought that all three of the performances were interesting, and I thought Dudley Moore's character, with a wisecracking sort of but low-key politician, was amusing, and I enjoyed it. The little girl I thought was fine. A picture like this that goes flat out for emotion, it's a risk. It's either going to get you a little weepy, a little teary-eyed, and it got me a little emotional, or you're going to have a reaction like yours, and I did not have the reaction that you did.
I was sitting there, you know, I got some letters from people who said, well, how can you make fun of this serious subject? And my answer is, I'm not making fun of the subject. The people who made this movie are making fun of the subject by making the film in the first place.
I disagree with you. I thought the film was truthful in the emotions. The specific events, Roger, the Lincoln Center bit, it's grandstanding, I grant you. But they're going after emotion, and they got mine, okay?
Well, they got yours, but I've still got mine right here.
Okay, when we come back, another look at the stinkers of the year.
Sore throat? Say ah. Septic. The ah in chloraseptic is for fast temporary relief of minor sore throat pain.
Septic.
Doctors and pharmacists have been recommending chloraseptic for over 20 years. When your throat hurts, say ah.
Chloraseptic.
Liquid, lozenges, and children's chloraseptic. Fast relief for sore throat pain.
Ah.
Yes, he's back from a long, hard year. Aroma, the educated skunk, helping to recap the year's worst movies, the stinkers of the year.
And in addition to the stinkers we've already reviewed, we both decided to name a few more to round it out to 5 stinkers apiece. My first stinker was If You Could See What I Hear, a movie that was supposed to be inspiring, but made its blind hero look like an irresponsible clown. Next was Porky's, the dumb movie about dumb teenagers undergoing an idiotic initiation to sex. Then there was 6 Weeks, a movie that shamelessly exploited every cornball element in its story about a dying little girl who wants to play matchmaker. I also had a couple of stinker sequels on my list, including Halloween 3, a boring, slow-paced thriller about a plan to fry the brains of the nation's youth, and Grease 2, a congealed movie that went over the same ground as the original Grease, but at half speed.
Well, my worst movies of the year, Amityville 2, The Possession, the year's worst sequel. What a category, huh? With a priest throwing up and shotguns trained on little children. I also hated Inchon, the multi-million-dollar Korean War fiasco with almost as many beautiful bombshells as exploding bombshells. And yes, Giorgio. What more can I say than what the film said? Fini can water you. And I can't help from adding to my list two more films. Neil Simon's I Ought to Be in Pictures with a smart-aleck daughter learning to accept her smart-aleck father, Walter Matthau. Lately, Neil Simon has been writing gags, not characters. And finally, Partners with Ryan O'Neal and John Hurt, an insulting depiction of a couple of cops, one gay, one straight, trying to solve some murders in the gay community. They tried to play this one for laughs, some fun.
And so much for 1982 and for the stinkers of the year. Join us next week when Gene and I look at some much better movies in a special show called Winners That Were Losers. These are movies we liked a lot, but they lost out at the box office. So until then, we'll see you at the movies.
Promotional considerations paid for by Ward Johnston, Johnson Wax, and Super Pop Popcorn. Hooray for Raisinets. Now you can enjoy one of the all-time favorite movie candies at home. Goobers and Snow Caps, too. Hooray for Raisinets. Glade Aerosol, the air freshener that instantly makes your home fresh. One spray and you'll know the difference Glade made. Super Pop Popcorn, a tender, delicious, nutritious snack at an economical price. Super Pop Popcorn, it's the one snack you can't eat alone. Super Pop.
Sophie's Choice tells the story of a young Polish Catholic woman who's thrown into the Nazi concentration camps, loses her family, and then is somehow miraculously spared to come to America, where she ends up in a boarding house in Brooklyn. And it's there that she meets the man who becomes her lover, a man who's brilliant and mad and very charming. For a short time, it looks like life has a lot to offer them, and here's a scene where they talk about books together.
Stone, a leaf, an unfound door.
O kamieniu,
Of a stone,
o liściu,
a leaf,
o drzwiach,
a door,
i o wszystkich zapomnianych twarzach.
and of all the forgotten faces.
Forgotten faces.
God, this is a first. Hearing Thomas Wolfe read aloud in Polish.
That was Kevin Kline as the lover and Meryl Streep in a great performance as Sophie. The other key character in the film is a young Southerner who wants to be a great novelist and who becomes an observer as tragedy strikes the two lovers. Sophie's Choice is an ambitious film that tells two stories, one of them set in Brooklyn, the other one set a few years earlier in Europe, and the unifying thread in the movie is that wonderful performance by Meryl Streep. It's one of the year's best performances, and I also think it's one of the year's best movies. I'm Roger Ebert at the movies.